International news and information. This is BBC World.
One of the latest NHS staff victims of the pandemic was a pregnant nurse working at the Luton and Dunstable University Hospital. Mary Agypong, who was 28, said to be a highly valued and loved nurse who'd been admitted to hospital last week. Among other NHS staff who've died is Dr. Peter Tunn, a specialist at the Royal Berkshire Hospital. The total number of NHS staff who've died so far is 45.
I'm here today for all the doctors, nurses and healthcare workers who lost their lives tragically and senselessly to COVID. And despite being told we have enough protection, lives are still being lost. The death of Mary was a tragic loss. Many pregnant women are still showing up to work. I'm pregnant myself. I'm in my second trimester, and there are no clear guidelines as to what needs to be done.
Well, this was exactly a week after Nurse Mary had passed away. And in that week, I was going through so many different emotions. You know, I was scared, I was angry. The whole time that I was stood there, I could just see Mary's face.
Mary Agypong, who was 28.
That's all I could see in my head. And the news that was going on about her the days before, and her husband and her children. And I just kept thinking, what kind of life will her daughter now have? It hit home quite hard because, you know, we were both in a quite similar position where we were excited for our future, where we would have a new baby girl in our life and in our family. And even just right now, just, you know, setting up Radhika's playpen and putting her toys away, it's a privilege, and I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to do this.
I always knew since the very beginning that Meenal was very, very strong-minded, very strong-willed, and a very unique lady. So very proud to be very proud to be parenting this little beauty together with Meenal.
So this was the wedding day, which we had in Malaga.
Happiest day of my life.
I didn't tell him to say that. And these are the photos of us getting ready. This was one of the ceremonies where his aunts plaster him with turmeric. And I'm sure it took him a long time to get it out his face before we had the wedding.
Over the last few months, we've seen so much tragedy, and we've seen so much, such an overall lack of compassion from the people in power as well. And I think that's where me and Meenal kind of grew even closer together, and understanding that we were fighting for justice. It was still a very traumatic time, to be honest. Working in such intense environments, and then knowing that Meenal was heavily pregnant, and not knowing much about how the virus transmits from baby to mother to baby, and how the mother could be affected, how the baby could be affected. You're constantly thinking about these sorts of things, never mind the politics going in a hospital. And so, yeah, it was always a really big worry for us. It was always a really big worry for us. And yeah, reflecting on it is outrageous. It was far too much pressure for a couple of doctors to be put under and take on the responsibility ourselves.
I didn't know if my voice would matter in the NHS specifically, which is such a big system that your concerns get lost through emails and, you know, trying to get through to the right person. But during the pandemic, that did come to mind. Can I make a difference myself? But I realized that if I didn't speak up, people could die. And of course, I was worried about my job being on the line and my husband's job being on the line as well, especially having a baby on the way. We had to think about finances. What could actually happen if I spoke up in such a way? But I knew that I couldn't live with myself if I didn't at least try. She wasn't the first person who I had heard of who had died of COVID. A few of my friends had relatives who'd been affected as well. And And then I started to just imagine what her daughter's life would be like, not growing up with her mother. It really upset me mainly because I knew it could have been prevented. And that was the thing. That why did she die? That was a question. Why did it happen? What went wrong? And to go back and think, okay, what actually went wrong, and to take those steps back, it all boils down to a lack of protection. She wasn't protected when she should have been, and when she could have been as well. And that's what really gave me a fire to say, okay, now we have to do something.
So this is where we had parked on that day when I protested, and throughout the drive to Downing Street on that Sunday morning, Nishant and I were quite silent. We didn't say much to each other because we just weren't sure how the day would pan out. And when we parked here, the first thing I said to Nishant is, please just scout the area, just make sure it's safe. This was the first lockdown in this country. We weren't sure what security would be like. I was very nervous. There was a lot of nervous energy inside me because I've never done something like this before, and I was taking a big stand against our government that day. I kept telling myself that I was doing this for Mary, I was doing this for all the healthcare workers who had died in such a needless way. Once Nishant came back to the car, he opened the door and he just said, "Meenal, let's do it." And when he said that, there was a big adrenaline rush inside me. And at that point, I didn't really care about the consequences or what was going to happen after that. I just wanted to go with it and protest. But when I came here and I held my sign up, there was one gentleman on his bicycle who drove past, and he started clapping, and he said to me, "Well done." And when he said that to me, that gave me a lot of positive energy, because we were seeing people clap for carers, we were seeing the British public come and support us, but to see that sort of energy come towards me specifically was very encouraging and very reassuring. It kept reminding me that I'm not alone. I knew that I wasn't alone. So I remember just standing right here and staring right into the London eye, and I could see the pink flowers blossoming and everything looked okay. I mean, it didn't feel like we were in a pandemic at all. And that's when I started to understand that our ministers and our leaders were coming to this place of where they were making their decisions, but they were coming into a place where they were being served hot cups of tea. They were being served their nice meals. And they were going into these really nice buildings where they were completely comfortable. At the same time, we were the ones driving to work. We were the ones going into our workplace filled with a fear, not knowing whether we would come out alive or not, not knowing whether we would come out to see our families. I kept telling myself that, Meenal, you're making the stand to fight for Mary, to fight for all other healthcare workers. And I remember standing here, and then about an hour in, I could feel my baby starting to kick. I wasn't used to standing up for such a long period of time, and it was difficult. I was heavily pregnant, but feeling my baby kick was just a reminder of the kind of world I want to bring my child into. I want her to know that I will speak up when I see anything that's wrong, and I want to make sure that she knows that she is allowed to speak up and she does have a voice as well. So as I was walking down towards this specific spot, I remember just walking down the streets of New Delhi with my father, and he was telling me about the injustices that he would face being raised in poverty. And one thing that he always told me was that there's no such thing as an innocent bystander. And I think that was just going in loop in my head, and that gave me a lot of courage to come here and stand here and hold my sign up.
I remember when I got a message on Twitter from one of the features editors of British Vogue, and I had to ask Nishant to read the message a few times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, to be alongside Jane Elliott and Professor Angela Davis is, I mean, I would have never imagined this. A small girl from Gibraltar who had grown up playing football on the beach in the Mediterranean Sea to then end up on Vogue next to people who I looked up to. And, you know, they say you can't be who you can't see. So it's thanks to them who, you know, they've given me the power to speak up. And it gave me a lot of encouragement and hope that there will be people who will fight for justice. And I know that when my daughter grows up and when my family, you know, grows, there will be people who will stand up for us. Even if I'm not there, I know that there will be people who will take the lead and be the voice of those who need it the most. So my colleagues were very supportive and they're all over the moon and very happy and very proud as well. But my family especially, I think it was a big moment in our history. My father was born and raised in a slum in New Delhi. So to come from that to this is a huge turning point in our family's history. And it just goes to show again that it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your background is. If you're fighting for the truth, if you're fighting for justice, and if you're fighting for something you really believe in, people will listen to you.